Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about yet another, the same dangerous storm system that's been producing pretty much a period of chaos across the weather, across the United States in terms of weather. Anything from the Yellowstone floods that have been occurring to the giant supercells we saw across Illinois and Wisconsin the other day, and now another day of severe weather with another day of moderate issued for the central Wisconsin and northern, central Wisconsin really getting the brunt of it, and portions of Iowa and into Minnesota and extreme northern Illinois. So this is you could see a pretty big threat for obviously a good area, Madison, Green Bay, large cities under this threat for pretty significant severe weather. And I showed you already briefly on the radar. This is what the current situation is looking like. You can see it's starting to form into more of a line. All the storms that have been erupting. This is kind of associated with the cold front of this big system, which is actually way up here and spinning away across Canada, producing showers way across North Dakota and the prairies of southern Canada, meaning Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and portions of Alberta. And notice that these storms have been firing up pretty rapidly, especially in the last recent hours. Let me see if I could zoom this out. For the past, this is since, 10 o'clock in the morning. You can see there was already storms here that did occur, but now, they're firing back up, and these are a lot more potentially dangerous. They have a lot of tornado potential. They have some obviously heavy downpours, and you can see that the structure of these storms is allowing for several to hit the same area over and over again. So, right, just take a look at that area right there. I just choose any point on a map that I think could get several hits. Yeah, and you can see that it was under a pretty good thunderstorm for several good 5-minute intervals, and now there's another storm just south of that. And there's more along the way to the south and east, and this will continue developing. These storms will continue to develop into Iowa, Missouri. Here, that the tornado threat or hail threat isn't as big as it is across Wisconsin, but don't be mistaken, there still will be storms that will erupt across Missouri, and you can see that we even do have some tiny little showers starting to develop. Again, nothing even, you can't even call this really a thunderstorm, but within a few hours this will definitely be filling in this map. And you can see that further north it's more of a steady rain, not as good of a severe weather threat, thankfully. But let's take a look at the National Weather Service. Notice we still have a large area of the United States under heat warnings, also heat advisories where it's hot but maybe not too hot, and then we have a tornado watch across a large portion of Iowa, Wisconsin, into extreme portions of southeastern Minnesota, and I don't know, maybe even into extreme northwestern Illinois. I can't tell because it's overridden by that excessive heat watch or excessive heat warning. Do note that we have high wind warnings and watches, advisories across the northern plains into the Dakotas and into Montana, and also Nevada and portions of eastern or western Utah. Now, there are many more things. There's some flood advisories across the northeast coast right there. There are another set of excessive heat watches for the upcoming days into Nebraska, where we kind of will see another extended period of heat here. And of course, there are some residue flash flood or just flood advisories across the west, where we saw those flooding occur across the northwest, and again, all brought by this very large potent storm. This heat is also caused by the storm. So again, all it takes is just one storm, and in the summer, it could produce a lot of chaos. That is obviously dangerous. So let me just track this out using a not too high-res model. This is the NAM 12KM. I want to show you this. So this is 5 p.m. right around when I'm recording this video, and I do note that this is what this model think will happen. I think it's a pretty good representation. Notice the storms form into a line, and they do track through Illinois, maybe into, let's go back and slow this down, into portions of Missouri, Kansas City, maybe getting in on some of that activity. But do note that the storm is quickly moving to the north and east, and this cold front weakens overnight. By 2 o'clock in the morning, there's just some residue showers and storms. But the next day of severe weather is tomorrow, and that's further across Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Notice some of this gets fired up again with the daytime heating, and this could affect, large cities like Pittsburgh, potentially maybe if it holds itself together into Philadelphia, and maybe even portions of Delaware and Washington, D.C., Maryland, and portions of northeastern Virginia. and I want to show you that at the Storm Prediction Center. Obviously today there's a very very big risk. I'll go over this in detail in just a second, but I do want to quickly show you before I go further tomorrow's threat, which again includes a lot of Pennsylvania and upstate New York. And yeah, the NAM, it may not look as impressive as it really probably will be. As you can see, the Storm Prediction Center is showing a pretty small threat for tornadoes. Obviously, that's that's good. With a cold front, that's kind of weak. They're usually tornado threat isn't too high, though. 5% is still something to watch for. Wind is obviously the highest, and hail is also relatively high, though again not as strong as the wind according to the Storm Prediction Center. Again, this could still change. We've seen many situations this week where for example, that one day where there was that moderate issued across Indiana. If you recall, I created that video 2 days ago. The day before it was just a slight risk, right? So not even an enhanced, let alone a moderate. So these things can quickly escalate into more dangerous situations in such a volatile and hostile environment. Let's take a look at today, because today's really the big day and big talking point. I'll record a video about tomorrow, but tomorrow obviously. Do note that there is a chance for some slight risk of severe storms across the southeast. That's mainly to do with some daytime heating. You can see that the storms are starting to pop up across the southeast, and they will continue in vigor. And you can see that they are very slow moving, so the rain that does occur is downpouring very heavily, and it's not necessarily a quick moving. These progressive storms, so you get hit by several in a row, that could cause some flash flooding. This is a lot more progressive, so flooding threat is minimized, but still these areas have seen a lot of rain. Some areas here, especially Milwaukee and areas north, where that big storm went in a couple days ago. So thankfully it's hot, right? So again, a lot of that has already evaporated, and really the flooding threat, as I said, is minimized. But let's go back to the Storm Prediction Center. So this is the categorical risk. It's a 4 out of 5. That is, that's pretty darn high. The only one that's higher is the high risk, which is something that usually is very rare issued, and they don't even do it on an annual basis. Sometimes there's 2-3 years where not a single high risk is issued. Moderate more often, but it's still something that doesn't occur too often. So tornado threat is concerningly high. You can see there's a 15. That is definitely on a higher side, and that is something that's why I think that was the main reason why they escalated it to a moderate in the first place, because you could see the wind threat is high, but I don't know if that by itself would be enough to issue a moderate potentially. And you can see Madison, Green Bay, Appleton, Oshkosh. So a lot of these large cities that are under the gun for some either tornado, wind, and of course hail threat, which is also pretty high, 30% chance, and that extends all the way well into the UP of Michigan. So again, these storms, though they may look like if they're at their most ferocious state here, they will continue to build into more of a wind and hail threat as they push further north and east into Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. Right now, when they're initially developing, and kind of a few hours afterwards is when the tornado threat is the highest, and that's why they have a relatively small area under that tornado threat that is up to a 15. But you can see they extended a 10 well into the UP as well. So this area is pretty much that's where the storms are right now. And as far as I'm concerned, I do not see any tornado warnings right now. Oh, well, as I said that, you can see that on the big map, where it usually takes a bit longer to update. There's nothing there, but I zoomed in and there is a tornado warning. There's actually two for two distinct cells. Let's take a look at this. I just want to see for myself if this is radar indicated or storm spotter indicated. If it's radar indicated, that's not necessarily meaning that it's actually there. Okay, so it's radar indicated, so that that may or may not be a tornado. But again, obviously if you're under this warning, don't take that risk. Just take shelter, take cover, as this is a dangerous situation that could be dangerous, because these tornadoes, even if they were to occur, they would be rain wrapped, so you wouldn't really see it coming like in a stereotypical like tornado out of Kansas, where usually there's like a really nice hook behind it. You could see, this kind of a perfect look for a storm chaser, what they always want. In this case, it's going to be rain wrapped, so not something you would really see. Probably you'd hear it before you would see it, hopefully. And hopefully you would just not be even outside. Because it wouldn't be worth it. So let's take a look at this. This is the tornado warning that is further north. It's a larger area. Okay, and see, this one is a PDS, so particularly dangerous situation. This is something that, if you see this on your phone, you should already be in a basement, because they usually issue a tornado warning first and then typically upgrade it to a particularly dangerous situation. And you can see this one is a damaging tornado reported by spotters, so that means it is on the ground. Debris has been seen lofted on radar. So you know, how strong this is, it doesn't matter. You know, it could be weak, could be strong. You know, take cover, because even a weak one could send a, you know, a 2x4 flying through your window and you know, potentially lead to some damage there. So that is definitely not something you want to mess around with. The storms back in Iowa, I do believe, are a bit they don't have as high of a tornado threat. I do know that obviously they do have a wind and hail threat still. You can see there is a severe thunderstorm warning right there. And again, I presume that the wind and the hail is the highest threat here. Let's take a look at the severe thunderstorm warning. And you can see 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, which honestly, really, that is borderline severe. That isn't anything too bad. Well, again, just based off that, there's probably some wind gusts in there that are stronger. And again, in this case, it's more of the hail. Quarter-size hail, you know, if that were to occur, that would, you know, in large numbers, potentially devastate like a car or a roof, right? Won't kill you if it hits you like, you know, a golf ball size hail or baseball size hail, but it's definitely dangerous, and I don't want to, you know, kind of undermine this threat. So this is by far the biggest threat, though, these storms right here with a tornado. And I mean, you know, there's one that's literally confirmed by spotters, so yes, stay safe there. And the tornado watch here, I tried clicking on here because there's a tornado severe thunderstorm warning, but I think it might have expired. Yeah, it did expire as of then. But again, there could be, you know, several. So if you live in this area, you get hit by a storm, right? You might think, oh, you know, it's good. The rain stopped, the hail's gone, the wind, whatever threat is there. But you know, you can see that especially further south here, there are sometimes, you know, several that occur at once. So it's one after the other after the other. Not super long term, right? They don't really last more than 15 to 20 minutes. But you know, there definitely could be several. If you live just west of Dubuque, Iowa, right, you're getting impacted by the one right there crossing into the Wisconsin from Iowa. And, you know, you can see there's a second one that's probably going to be a bit further towards the north and east in just, you know, 15 to 20 minutes. Further up here, it's more one singular line, but again, this is where they have those tornado warnings. And again, you won't really see it coming, probably because it's rain wrapped, and this isn't a, you know, a clean kind of a supercell whatsoever. It's just a line of storms, and these tornadoes can still be very powerful, so that is something to watch for. Let me show you now what the models think will happen. I'll show you a few. Again, don't take too much look into this, you know, modeling and think this is exactly what's going to happen. The one, if you recall the video I was recording that one day where we had that giant supercell that occurred, or, you know, a really large storm across southern Wisconsin, and then that moderate across Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio that you know, dropped quite a bit of wind and hail damage. You know, that one, if you recall, the HER model completely kind of failed to forecast the first part of it. I know that I was recording a video at around, I think it was 4 or 5, and if you recall, I was talking about some little storms that were starting to fire up across the border right here, and that was the start of a giant supercell that kind of tore through a lot of the Illinois area, and it did end up hitting me. Thankfully, we were fine; nothing really happened. But it was one of the scariest storms that has occurred here in a while. You know, I was generally kind of a bit scared when that thing was forming. It was massive, and it quickly tore through a lot of, you know, northern Illinois and into Indiana. It did drop quite a bit of damage across certain areas. We got lucky here, though. So that just goes, you know, goes to show you that you could look at these models all you want, but sometimes, again, as I said, the National Weather Service, they said there was a threat. I was going to take their word any day over some HER model, and of course, they turned out to be right over the models. And because, you know, models is just really just one part of a forecast. So do note that we do have that line that that is occurring. The HER model does show it. It is a bit more behind. I think that the HER model is kind of, it shows it. In real life, this is a bit ahead of schedule. I do believe the HER model is a bit slow with it, but regardless, you can see it does a pretty good job. Again, it does show those storms occurring across Iowa, Missouri, maybe even extreme portions of eastern Kansas, developing. By 8 to 9, you can see they're still ongoing, tearing through, you know, or tearing maybe is a bit too aggressive, but going through Madison, Milwaukee, and as they push into Illinois and further into Michigan, they do weaken. You know, the extent of how quickly they weaken is a bit unsure. Based on the current trends, if this line is a bit ahead of schedule, there will be more a little bit more earlier on in the evening, so it could keep its shape a bit better than what this model shows at 1 or 2. So again, if you live across Indiana, maybe not, yeah, maybe even Indiana, Illinois, especially Michigan right here into Missouri, if you see some, you know, rumbles of thunder or see some lightning in the middle of the night, it wakes you up, you hear it, don't be too surprised, as some of these storms may be a bit more fired up than what these models are showing. And just to show you that, let's click on the Chicago Weather Office, and you can see they do have a 50% chance, which isn't awfully too high, but it is kind of indicative of a more uncertain situation. You can see, obviously, the Quad Cities, it's 70% chance. It's much more likely of a scenario, as it's they're going to be occurring there a bit earlier on. Kansas City, you have 60, followed more by 30. So again, they're showing that the kind of, you know, the weakening trend of these things will be occurring, but definitely 60% is a pretty good chance. And with the heat, with the humidity, you know, these could really fire up quickly and develop into a line of, you know, potentially damaging storms. So that is pretty much what I wanted to show you. Go over like the basics. I could show you a few more models. Again, this is the NAM 3KM, a very good model. I like to use it. Here is the time, by the way, 7 p.m. So let me just backtrack this, and you can see how this line kind of develops and unfolds. This is now 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you notice that what the NAM 3KM does compared to the earlier one I showed you, it keeps this line a bit more intact compared to what the other model did. And I think this is a more realistic scenario. Maybe not exactly, you know, the way this is showing it, but just a more intact line a bit further into the evening. I do think it will be weakening quickly as it, you know, approaches northern Indiana especially. But basically, if it is a bit earlier and more developed, which you can see, I mean, at this point, it's already exiting Minnesota. And the HER model that I just showed you, the most recent one, at 4 p.m. when I'm recording this, it's still, a good part of it's still stuck in Minnesota. And it's almost like an hour or two ahead of what the models are showing. So we'll have to see. You know, that may be just the initial kind of push that was a bit ahead, but we'll see. If this progresses quickly, then, you know, that could be kind of a bit of a worse situation, as this, again, could be a bit stronger as it moves into Illinois and Wisconsin, as the, you know, and whenever the sun sets, the storms usually get a bit weaker. There's less instability and whatnot. So notice these are developing into a very nice thick line here. This will, again, result in very heavy rain, but of course that tornado threat is the highest. And if you recall, if we go back to that map, there was a tornado warning here that was, you know, a tornado was confirmed. So a PDS, they don't issue that often. And yeah, so stay safe across this area, guys. You know, don't panic, obviously, but keep an eye to the sky. Stay tuned to your local National Weather Service. Have your, you know, phone charged and ready. They always send, you know, those alerts through your phone. And of course, if you have a weather radio, that could also prove useful. And yeah, if you want, Storm Prediction Center is a good website. You can see, you know, they discuss a lot of these things in more detail here. So this was a few hours ago when they were discussing whether or not they should issue a, you know, a tornado watch. And I think, I mean, they obviously ended up doing it. So they were just kind of discussing this increasing supercell and tornado threat next couple of hours. And I mean, you know, that appeared to be true. So that is basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all on the next episode. That is it for today. See ya. Bye.